Welcome back everyone, I'm ajbarse, and in this workshop we're going to be looking at Logitech Capture. Now Logitech Capture is a proprietary app that works with most Logitech cameras that are recently made, and I'll have a list probably of some of them right around here. And what this workshop is going to be looking at is using Logitech Capture as more like a broadcasting tool for either your synchronous or asynchronous recordings. Now, what you're looking at is actually the app and a little bit of the functionality that we'll be diving into. Now, one of the things about this app is its functionality is heavily reliant on Logitech hardware, and that's why they have to be Logitech specific cameras. You can see over here, we're using a C920, and this will be the camera that we'll be using through this module. Now with it, we get some added features, and that's what's nice about this, is you're able to do things like zoom, not the actual app, but the ability to zoom in and out using your camera. Now also using these cameras you get added resolution. Most of them start off at 1080p, 30 frames a second, and if you don't know what that means, that's totally fine. It just means really good resolution and really good frame rate. And what this allows you to do is be able to add more light or more control to your camera and maybe where you're recording. You know, in the Pacific Northwest, it's getting darker earlier, and more of us have to record at random hours. And in doing so, it can be hard to control using lighting and such. So having a camera like this where we're able to control things like our autofocus, our white balance, and image settings gives you more control in your final production. So we're going to cover what some of these things look like in the module to come. Now, part of this workflow is more of a broadcast solution. Now, whether you're recording or you're doing synchronous teaching, Logi Capture can work in both situations. So right now you can see I've pushed the big red button right down here and we're recording. And I'm doing this all in one take because that's really what Logi Capture is trying to get us to do, is to use this in more of a live production scenario so it reduces the need to do editing. So some of the things that this app can do is add lower thirds, and we can also pause our recording midway so that we can jump into the next scene, and it helps, again, kind of alleviate the need for editing per se. So for instance, by using the pausing feature and then going into the next scene that I'm establishing, I can do cool things like adding simple text to the bottom of this and also giving myself a break. And this is part of the workflow of doing this. We talk a little bit about this in OBS, and now we're kind of bringing that same type of solution here to a native app for Logitech hardware. And we can also do other fun things like adding filters and such, which I usually ignore, but we'll cover what these functions can do for you in your recording. Now we can also specify what we're bringing in. So for instance, we can just use the camera, we can use a combination of recording our screen or isolating a specific app, or we can do a picture-in-picture function like I'm doing right here. Now, one of the other cool things that I want to point out about this is that this is a cross-platform application. So Logitech Capture is available for both Mac and PC. So PC users are able to use it for Windows 10 as well as most of the modern Windows environments. Now, for Mac users, I do need to put a little bit of a disclosure. It is available for Mac, relatively speaking, newer operating systems, but it is listed as a beta. Now, I've been using this beta for quite some time, and most of the bugs have been worked out, so it's a pretty well-baked app, but I do want to say you may run into some issues on the Mac, but it's not anything that is a deal breaker in my opinion. So it's freely available for Mac and PC, and all you need is a supported Logitech camera. Now, one last thing before we go. Since we're talking about system specifications, I do need to remind everyone that adding any camera, whether it's Logitech or anything, when you add resolution, these cameras start off at 1080p, they can be brought down to 720p and other lower resolutions and still look really good and get the same functionalities that I just explained. But if we look over here in the app itself, you'll notice in the Mac and the PC version, there's the folder icon. And if I bring that up on my screen, what you'll see is the recording folder of all the things that I've recorded using this app recently. Here's one that I have. I'm going to go ahead and get info really quickly. And if we were to take a look at this, This is using the max resolution and support that this camera, the C920, can do at 1080p, 1920 by 1080, 30 frames a second, 17.5 minutes, 1.6 gigabytes. So I can't stress this enough, and I've mentioned this before, do make sure you have external hard drives or you have enough space on your hard drive if you plan to be a little long-winded on the mic. Now, the other thing I also throw out is try to do these in chunks. One, it helps you kind of stay a little bit more composed and a little less winded, and also, should you make a mistake, you don't have to feel like you have to scrub a lot of work or do a lot of editing. Again, if you can chunk things out, it helps both teaching and learning, and also it helps you in the production and post-production process. That wraps up this brief introduction to this module on Logitech. And again, we'll cover a lot of other things in great detail, such as really how to get these effects, these work into your workflow, as well as using virtual camera. And even if you're just watching this and you just want to know a simple, how do I get this to work with a green screen on PowerPoint? I'll have that covered as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.